The acting attorney general is supposed to be the people's lawyer and defend the rule of law and not act as the president's personal lawyer. But in this administration, the Department of Justice is solely focused on pleasing one man, no matter the cost. Lest anyone forget, huge banners with Donald Trump's face hang from both sides of the main Justice building. This is the big banner of Donald Trump on one side of it, so that every single person who enters that building will see it and remember exactly what that man wants them to do. You're his former personal attorney, and you know exactly what he wants. In fact, he often posts it right here on social media, his Truth Social account. He wants to weaponize the department for his own political ends. And right from the start, you and your cohorts have worked to deliver what he wants, doing his political dirty work. 2 days ago, you even suggested that there was, quote, a ton of evidence that the 2020 election was rigged against Trump. And here you are at a budget hearing asking for taxpayer funds to pursue the department's mission when you're using those funds to punish Trump's adversaries, reward his friends, and pursue his personal vendettas. It began with pardoning the rioters who stormed the Capitol on January 6th and assaulted police officers. The revenge continued with the firing of more than a dozen lawyers who represented the Justice Department in those cases. Yesterday, you created a $1.8 billion slush fund to dole out taxpayer dollars to the president's supporters, including those who attacked this Capitol on January 6th. That is pure theft of public funds. And rewarding individuals who committed crimes is obscene. Every American can see through this illegal, corrupt, self-dealing scheme. You have also misspent resources on the blatant political prosecutions of James Comey and others. You couldn't find a single career lawyer to bring the first case against Comey, and lawyers resigned rather than participate in that charade. Now you've launched a ludicrous vindictive prosecution in the Seashell case. It's a shameful dereliction of your duty to pursue impartial justice without fear or favor. You've also brought criminal charges against journalists who were doing their jobs in Minneapolis. You've refused to hold accountable the DHS agents who shot and killed Renee Good. Instead, while members of the administration called both Renee Good and Alex Preddy domestic terrorists, you ordered a criminal investigation of Renee Good's partner. Hardworking professional attorneys resigned rather than engage in that abuse of power. Others in the department have been fired for telling the truth to the courts, an insidious message to send to officers of the court. You have fired immigration judges who rendered decisions the administration didn't like. More gross political interference in what is supposed to be an independent process. All told, DOJ lost over 8,500 staff last year and nearly 1/4 of its lawyers. It's so bad that you're now offering $25,000 signing bonuses and hiring prosecutors with no prior legal experience, seeking applicants who personally pledge support to the president. You've also refused to share with members of Congress the Office of Legal Counsel's purported legal justification for the blatantly illegal war the president and Prime Minister Netanyahu started in Iran. You have clear conflicts of interest between your prior job as the president's personal lawyer and your duty to ensure justice. This is especially true with respect to the cases of the survivors of the heinous crimes committed by Jeffrey Epstein. Many of those survivors are in New York City today as we speak, as part of a 24-hour public reading of the Epstein files. Many reading excerpts from their own FBI 302 reports documenting the abuses they endured. These survivors have tried to share their stories with you. Instead, you spent 2 days interviewing his convicted associate, Ghislaine Maxwell, and shortly thereafter, she was moved to a lower security prison camp with special perks. Mr. Blanche, the record is crystal clear. You are still acting as the president's personal lawyer, not as acting attorney general. It is hard to justify giving you any funds that will enable this pattern of wrongdoing to continue. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Chris Van Hollen did not ease into this hearing carefully. From the very beginning, he framed the issue in the strongest possible terms. He argued that the Department of Justice is supposed to serve the public and defend the rule of law, not operate as the president's personal legal team. And that opening mattered because it immediately established what this hearing was really about: independence. Can the Department of Justice still operate independently when top officials have close personal and political ties to the president? That was the core issue running through the entire exchange. Van Hollen pointed to huge banners displaying Donald Trump inside the Justice Department building and argued that the symbolism sends a message to employees about loyalty and political pressure. Now, politically, symbolism matters in Washington. Institutions like the DOJ are built around the idea that justice should be impartial and insulated from political influence. So when critics see overt displays centered around one political figure, they argue it risks creating the appearance that loyalty to a president matters more than loyalty to the law. Van Hollen then connected that symbolism directly to Todd Blanche himself. Because Blanche previously served as Donald Trump's personal attorney, Van Hollen argued there is an unavoidable conflict between Blanche's past loyalty to Trump and his current responsibility to act impartially as acting attorney general. That is a serious accusation. In the American legal system, the Attorney General is expected to represent the interests of the United States as a whole, not the personal interests of a president. So when someone moves directly from serving as a president's private lawyer into overseeing the Justice Department, critics naturally question whether they can truly separate those roles. Van Hollen's argument was that Blanche has not separated them at all. He accused the DOJ of pursuing Trump's political enemies while rewarding Trump's allies. And that is where the hearing became much broader than just one policy disagreement. Because once Americans start believing the justice system applies differently depending on political loyalty, public trust in law enforcement institutions begins to weaken very quickly. Van Hollen then pointed to the January 6 pardons and the firing of lawyers connected to those cases. His argument was that the administration is sending a message that loyalty to Trump matters more than defending democratic institutions or upholding accountability for political violence. He also accused the DOJ of creating what he described as a $1.8 billion slush fund connected to Trump supporters and allies. Now legally and politically, the term slush fund is extremely loaded. It suggests money being controlled outside normal accountability structures for political or personal benefit. That is why this accusation landed so aggressively during the hearing. Van Hollen was essentially arguing that taxpayer money could be directed through political influence rather than neutral legal processes. And then he widened the attack even further. He accused the DOJ of pursuing politically motivated investigations against figures like James Comey while career lawyers inside the department reportedly refused to participate. That part of the hearing speaks to another important issue people often overlook: internal resistance inside government agencies. Career prosecutors and career investigators are not political appointees. Many serve across Republican and Democratic administrations. So when experienced attorneys reportedly resign rather than participate in a case, lawmakers often treat that as a warning sign that something unusual may be happening internally. Van Hollen used those resignations to strengthen his argument that experienced professionals inside DOJ are uncomfortable with the direction the department is taking. The hearing then shifted toward immigration judges, journalists, and the broader use of federal power. Van Hollen accused the administration of firing immigration judges over decisions the administration did not like and targeting journalists for doing their jobs. Again, the deeper issue here is independence. Judges are expected to make decisions based on law, not political pressure. Journalists are expected to investigate government conduct without fear of retaliation. So when lawmakers believe political considerations are influencing those areas, it raises alarms about abuse of power. Then the hearing moved into one of the most emotionally charged topics: Jeffrey Epstein survivors. Van Hollen pointed out that survivors were publicly reading portions of their FBI reports while trying to get the DOJ to listen to their concerns. At the same time, he criticized Blanche for spending time interviewing Ghislaine Maxwell before she was reportedly moved to a lower-security prison facility. That contrast was politically powerful. Van Hollen wanted viewers to see a justice system where survivors struggle to be heard while powerful or connected figures continue receiving attention, resources, or favorable treatment. And emotionally, that resonates because many Americans already feel the justice system often treats wealthy or influential people differently. By the end of the hearing, Van Hollen's overall argument was very clear. He believes the Justice Department is no longer acting independently. He believes it is increasingly functioning as a political extension of Donald Trump's interests. Blanche, on the other hand, would likely argue that the administration is aggressively pursuing its legal priorities while opponents are politicizing routine decisions. But this hearing revealed something bigger than one argument between a senator and an acting attorney general. It exposed a growing fear inside American politics that institutions once seen as independent are becoming deeply tied to partisan loyalty. And whether people agree with Van Hollen or not, that concern matters because public trust is one of the most important things the Justice Department depends on. If Americans stop believing the law is applied fairly, consistently, and independently, then confidence in the entire justice system starts to erode. That is why hearings like this attract so much attention. They are not just political theater. They are public battles over who controls powerful institutions, how government power should be used, and whether accountability still applies equally to everyone. Subscribe to Capitol Breakdown HQ for more Senate and House hearing breakdowns, political analysis, and accountability-focused coverage from Washington.